Welcome back to Hell Fortress Cathedral Midnight, the Enochian Terror Transmissions. Today I am talking to rapper Deathirl about all four of their incredible projects, from when they burst onto the scene in 2020 to just this week when they dropped their latest release, Fresh Flowers for Ill Fruit. We talk about everything from the rarity of developing a creative skill communally and organically, to the inspirations behind each album, to the collaborative process, and even to what it means to be an artist in the first place. I think you'll really enjoy hearing about Deathirl's philosophy. I certainly did. But I've got to apologize. I accidentally recorded my side of the audio using my computer mic. So the quality, while it's not the worst thing in the world, it's not as good as I would want it to be. But on the other side of the conversation, Deathirl's audio sounds immaculate. So there's that at least. Enjoy.
How's life down your way these days?
Good. It's actually pretty good, surprisingly.
That's good to hear. I mean, things are pretty dystopian at the moment. So hearing that things are good is it's a pleasant surprise. Almost every episode of this podcast so far has been like the first 5-10 minutes has been people talking about all the dystopic shit going on around them.
No, I completely feel that.
You've just had your new album out, Fresh Flowers for Ill Fruit, and
yes.
It is.
Yes.
It's very cool. It's very different from anything else you've put out so far. And how has the reception been? How are you feeling about it?
It seems people really like it, which I appreciate, but it sold comparably less than all my other records, which is funny. But I knew people. It's like a if you know kind of thing. Like when you hear it and if you're in it, like it's good. But a lot of people don't have the language for it.
Yeah, it's definitely more experimental than your other stuff, and also sales are a very strange thing. It can be anything from timing to it's just pure luck. Often, sale, especially online, if you don't have a big PR machine behind you, sales can be a very, very fickle thing. But that's the good thing about once it's out, it's out. And once the more you drop stuff and the more that stuff comes out to hype you up, the more people are going to go back like it's there now.
Exactly. Like that's my thing. Like I can't control everything or honestly anything. All I can do is work through it, Like I have a hard work ethic. My entire family has a hard work ethic, and that's all I really know what to do at the end of the day. It's kind of like I guess it would be more Confucian if it was a philosophy. What's in my sphere of influence, I try to manipulate as much as I can. And all I know how to do is rap, so I'm going to just rap no matter what.
Yeah, it's a good ethic to have. And as an independent artist, it is difficult to maintain that ethic because, of course, everything is measured in money and the hype and stuff like that. And if that isn't coming in to the degree that you want it to, it can be hard to maintain that drive, and you just gotta keep going. But thankfully, like I suppose I'll hop back in time now, and we can get back to Fresh Flowers. We can circle back around to that. But at a glance at your Bandcamp page, it looks like you just burst onto the scene in 2020, and you just like bam, 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 bam. 4 incredible albums from then to here, and you got Backwash feature and just
goodness, you're making me almost cry already. But yes, keep. I'm a crier, by the way. So
I'm jealous. there's a lot of good mental good that is done from being able to cry. Yes. But yeah, you seem to just explode out of nowhere and make all this with finely honed beats, even from the first release Panopticon with Titmouse, top of the game technical lyrical bars, and it has just continued from there. But I must assume that before Panopticon, there were other things. Maybe not recorded, maybe not released, although probably because the internet, everybody's always recording shit since they're like fucking since they can, right?
Yeah, they
These
don't.
days.
History won't breed a rapper like me or rappers of the past ever again. Like everything we do is recorded and like monetized instantly. But when you like, that's why hip hop is not the same. More so because of the doll than anything else. It's just not gonna be the same. And they just don't make artists. History doesn't make artists like it used to. So it's really interesting. I might be one of the last ones who had like that cypher background, rapping in high school over like people just beatboxing or banging on a table. Like you might not have that anymore. It's either you got it or you don't, and it's gonna be recorded.
Yeah, it's that kind of like lightning in a bottle where you're growing up and you have people around you egging you on and you're working on stuff with people as you're growing up and developing your craft with others. That is it is definitely a rarity, which is strange because you'd think in these days of like TikTok and you know back a few years ago Vine and these instant ways of recording things, you'd think people would be performing more and being more creative in time, and in a way that is kind of the case. But yeah, there is definitely that sense of alienation where everybody kind of wants to go off on their own and do their own thing and make their own stuff by themselves, be self-taught.
Yeah, I think that's horrible too. Like I think it's talent, but I think it's like I'm big in the idea of not necessarily a scene, but a genius. I learned in as a word, which I think is an important word, is that you're not an individual genius. You're a genius. You have it's an interconnected network. Like you're not one person. Your own genius relies on the genius of your producer, your engineer, your style, their style, and it's a more, I guess, like a network kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, the term that anarchists use all the time is rhizomal, right?
I'm not familiar with that term. I'm not a big anarchist. Like not because I'm against it. I just don't. I never been like taught it or anything like that.
Sure, it's just it's a term I learned in like 2014 from some random hippie, and then I just hear it over and over again. Rhizome. It's like funguses and like ginger roots are like rhizomes. The way they like spread out and connect and send nutrients through the network.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So that's interesting. Like I can I've seen that. I saw that around me when I was growing up in Ireland on the trad scene. Like all people would get together and they play like their traditional Irish music and stuff. Unfortunately, I never quite locked into that myself. I'm one of these fucking fuckers who went off by themselves and did their own thing. But it is a rare thing, and it can't be forced. It certainly can't be forced. And you can hear the results in your work.
Thank
the just the polish and the confidence and the passion. So how did you go from kind of genius to deciding to record it and actually release and drop stuff?
That was all Titmouse. I went so again, it's so hard to talk about my music without like talking about my like life and stuff, but I was in like community college for 2 years, and then I went to I guess a 4-year for 2 years, and that's where I met Titmouse. And I went to like a music meeting thing, and I saw Titmouse, and I said, "You make beats?" And she was like, "Yeah, I make beats." I said, "Well, I rap." And then I rapped Revolution, what would be called Revolution on Panopticon Blues, and she immediately like ran me to the studio, and we started recording.
that is a fantastic origin story, and I guess Panopticon just sprung out of that. It's such a that's such a like a fated occurrence, right? It's the kind of thing you wish all your life for to happen.
I have this unbelievable gift of judging character and just looking at someone and knowing what they're about and how they hold themselves, and like if they're good at what they do, or just like I can cut through the BS at like any moment. And just the way Titmouse carries herself, it's just the talent and is undeniable. Like you don't even have to hear a beat yet. Like you just know.
Yeah, you can really tell when someone has it. It's a hard thing to quantify. People say talent. I'm not a big fan of that word, frankly, because there's, you know what it's like, growing up and making music and meeting people, and some people they have it, some people they don't. Some people can go to music school and learn their chops and still don't have it. It's a very strange thing. But I think I don't think it's like an essentialist thing. I think people can work on it. It's just it's a matter of being able to criticize yourself in the right way.
And I think more so is that people know, some people just know their voice more than others. And what I learned, I also did a little bit of classical training in piano when I was younger. And the teachers liked me is because I knew how I wanted to play the piece. Not just what the notes on the page, or listening to like so and so person perform it. It's just I knew off rip like how I wanted it to sound. Of course, it's going to be the same notes, it's going to be the same everything, but how I want those notes to move. It's very a voice thing. That je ne sais quoi is, and that it factor, I think, to me, is just knowing your voice, and that takes time. Some people it takes time.
It's a difficult thing to feel out, and it's also an easy thing to lose, I think. I mean, it's certainly in my experience, I find myself having to rediscover my voice over and over and over and over again. I know maybe some people, maybe you have a really strong, sure sense of it, but I find that it's something that comes and goes, and that you have to like rediscover, especially on the internet, when you have an audience and people are asking you to do stuff like make more like this, make more like that, kind of a thing. It's tough out there. So, Panopticon is this like apocalyptic, political, angry, like violent, like work that I absolutely love, and that seems to be a like one of the things that really gravitates me towards your music is just all the rage in it. I love angry, hard stuff, and you deliver that with the exception of Fresh Fruit, but we'll get back to that. And I think I really love all the esoteric themes in your stuff as well.
Yes. Thank you for picking up on that. Thank you.
Well, I picked that up on that. The first thing I heard from you was the track that you featured on with Backwitch. I believe it was called Demons. I might be wrong. No, it wasn't called Demons.
I forget what it was called, but yeah.
And that was very very esoteric and quite Gnostic. Like there's honestly, like throughout this whole pandemic and everything that's happened over the last like just few months even. I mean, I went out the other day. There's this little forest behind my house. I went and I sat there and I was just trying to calm down. Like I'd been really set off by something I saw. I was like just trying to shake it off. And I was trying to sit in the woods, and all I could hear was these fucking industrial machines way closer than I wanted them to be. And I just couldn't help think that like everything beautiful in this world exists to be fucking violated by the machine. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of that in your lyrics. Like I feel like you really put across this like sense of just beauty being devoured and like rage against that.
Perversion is a big theme in a lot of my, like, perversion in a sense that like you said, everything that can be soiled or sullied, whatever the word, will be. And there, as much as you try to protect it, it's just an inevitability.
It's such a difficult thing to parse without absolutely losing your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Especially nowadays, like there's more and more talk. Like we won't get into any try and avoid incriminating ourselves or anybody else, but there's more and more talk of armed rebellion, armed violence and stuff, and the temptation, the kind of that anger, that radicalizing anger is so incredibly tempting, and it's a hard thing to it's a hard thing to have sit in your head, just all the evil in the world and stuff. So and then exactly. And so with this spiritual outlook of like, you have a lot of lyrics in your work about killing God, which this kind of spiritual outlook of God as the supreme tyrant, you know?
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Yes, exactly.
It is a very difficult thing to sit with in life, but it is a very pragmatic thing to sit with, because you see nowadays spirituality and occultism and stuff like that, it's getting more and more popular, but it's also getting more and more commodified into a control system.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could fucking rant on about this, but I'm talking too much.
You're
pick
so
this
like
up and walk with it.
A big thing for me with that is also a personal decolonial project. Deathirl is very much Deathirl is about me and not about me at the same time. It's a very decolonial project. It's a very and I may be misusing the philosophy, but I remember reading Michel Foucault one time, and it's the aestheticization of art and images, especially related to religious images. How, especially in mythology, that the story and the image get separated. And my job, I feel, as an artist, is to take that separation and rebuild it in my image in decolonial perspective. Yeah. So when I say killing God, I'm talking about like killing the idea of whiteness and its perversion and Christianity, or, you know, Yoruba religions or Santeria and all that kind of stuff, which I think it was interesting about Santeria, because it kind of did that. It kind of did the Foucault kind of thing.
Would you equate Yoruba with cosmic tyranny?
No, I think it's I think it's doing exactly what I'm doing, if that makes sense. And more so that you have to be in it to get it, and it's deeply personal.
Yeah, it's like it's an African diaspora thing.
Yeah, you can't go into like a East meets West store and buy a book on it. And even if you do, you're doing it wrong, and everyone will tell you you're doing it wrong.
I've had a small brush in with Yoruba in my own kind of spiritual life, and it was just kind of a thing I did out of desperation, and it worked. And I went to like a Yoruba priestess, and I was like, "Hey, I did a Yoruba thing. I'm sorry, that's not for me." And she was like, "I'm glad it worked. Leave it alone." And I was like, "Yeah."
And I'm Puerto Rican, so that's how I'm closer to that personally, like within, you know, brushes of everyday life, quiet mentions, and like I shouldn't say much, but like, yeah, you get.
It is interesting how there is that connection between, because Yoruba does come from Africa, right? And there's a connection between that,
the islands,
that and the islands, like Cuba and Puerto Rico and stuff like that,
and DR and everywhere.
I'm not super knowledgeable about the history there, but it is just interesting how all these colonized and abused people around the Americas have all this shared history outside of that struggle.
And it, as much as it's intermingling with Christian iconography, it's also doing, like I said, the Foucault thing. It's taking that empty space between the images and the story and filling it up, and it doesn't, and in such a sense that it isn't retelling a story or isn't breathing new life into the old one, you know.
Yeah, it's similar to how Irish Catholicism is kind of this give and take between the invaders and the indigenous people, where they're like, you have to be Catholic now, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we worship this like person, can we fit this into your religion and keep it? for ourselves. Like it's this weird.
And then you get
bargain.
Grendel and Beowulf, and then you get the whoever wrote the Hero of a Thousand Faces, and then you get Star Wars, and then you get
and then you get Disney controlling fucking everything.
mm-hmm.
So after Panopticon, you got well. Before we move on from Panopticon, I'd just like to ask about what's the process when you work with Titmouse on a track. What's the process like there?
My process is usually the same with like any person. Send me the beat and I rap over it and I send it back. I do take criticisms and like things to change, but it's usually that simple. Like I said, I come from that simple time when like all you had to do was rap. So that's all I do.
Interesting. So you basically do you talk to the producer beforehand, about what the vibe of the album you want to be is, or do you basically just go make some Deathirl beats and let's do this?
I usually pick the beats. I curate almost everything that's on my projects. Yeah, like if usually I get sent beats that are already made. Like I don't usually ask, because whenever I ask, it's never what I have in my head. I'm setting myself up for failure. So I get beats and I do a Death IRL song on the beats.
Gotcha. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting. So for Apocrypha, I remember the first time I listened to Apocrypha, I actually developed this theory about the progression of your albums.
I would love to hear it. I love theories.
It's completely wrong. It's completely wrong because it was based on my initial memory of listening to Apocrypha. I saw Apocrypha, Death in Real Life, and Fresh Flower for Ill Fruit as like a trilogy where Apocrypha was all about like sorrow, and then Death in Real Life was about like rage, and then Fresh Flower for Ill Fruit was about meditating. It was about meditation between two periods of chaos. But then I went back and listened to Apocrypha again, and I'm like, I don't know what I was talking about. This is also incredibly angry. This is like this super angry album.
You're not wrong though. Your theory is actually not wrong. We'll get into that when we talk about the new album though, and why that was made. But Apocrypha is the sister record to Panopticon Blues, if I had to say so.
Yeah, I noticed some continuation of the themes there. How would you say they link up in your own words?
So where Panopticon's more about the material, I would say, and the material conditions, and pretty much a time capsule, so I can tell my kids, like, yeah, I was talking about this. Don't listen to the history books and then all of a sudden fascism. Like, no, we've been talking about this for a minute. And then Apocrypha is taking that God concept to its fullest extent in every direction, and how the tyranny of whiteness manifesting into patriarchy, into, materializing through capitalism, also has a spiritual and human warfare within it as well. And that's why the first song talks about my father, passing. He was white, so, and a Vietnam vet. I think it's, that you don't have to be an expert to connect the dots in history for that outcome. So, yeah. And then the whole record is my life all the way up to Panopticon Blues, hence why it ends with 40 Days and 40 Nights.
Right, yeah. I did notice that the first album is like, it's almost like it's very Marxist Maoist, right? It's very like it is very material and very political. The second one is a lot more emotional, and oh my god, the production on that album is incredible.
Judas I think that's my most underrated project. I think Judas is the most underrated producer I've worked with. They
All right,
yeah.
Their piano lines are incredible. I love that gothic piano sound, and then bringing some of that like industrial electro and stuff. Just it's a delicious album.
It's genius. It's genius. Also, Box Kitty, the engineer, saved that entire record. We could not have finished that record without them at all.
What happened?
That record was, because Judas does music in a way that at that time was like not amateurish, but very insular. So they only knew how it worked. So, right. so we kind of had and it became like a Jenga tower where, okay, now it's just too much entropy. No one, like, the files are everywhere. Like, and then Box Kitty just saved the record.
Amazing.
Just absolutely saved the record.
That is a painfully relatable situation. Mm-hmm. Cool. So then Death in Real Life seemed to be kind of a return to that materialist, like leftist anger.
I made that record in 5 days, so it was all just material. No time for meditation or reflection.
I don't know. I'm always. Do you ever find that, like, when you're listening to a track that just bangs like a motherfucker, you're actually surprised and you're like, oh, this artist cares that I'm having fun while I'm listening to this.
Yes. That's why I toned the bars down. Like, not in a sense, I got to. Like, no, I want you to feel the beat every time.
Yeah. And then you moved on to the new record, which is super different. Like, not I've never heard anything quite like it. It's like a mushroom trip of an album. It's like that cover by Ash is perfect. It just perfectly encapsulates the sound, and I love how kind of dark it is, because the sound is so dreamy and bright, and the contrast with the cover just gives it that sinister edge.
The one with the snake, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Ash did the logo, and I picked that like public domain image, and then I went from there with it and like adjusted some things.
It's a fantastic choice.
Thank you.
And yeah, it gets that kind of dreamy. It gives that the kind of sinister context that the meditation is in the center of, right? It's very evocative. So yeah, tell us about this and why and how it fits into the bigger picture, and why you decided to slow down now.
So I really did this because I just missed rapping. Like, this making songs is cool. I'm a big songwriter. I try to have as many interesting things to make a song good. But I just wanted to rap. I didn't want drums to hold me back. I saw how happy Earl Sweatshirt was rapping over drumless loops with Alchemist, and I just wanted to go back to that. I just wanted to go back to me just walking up to someone and I just rhyme, and that's what the project is.
Excellent. And thematically, lyrically, it's quite mysterious. Quite mysterious and very like painterly. Do you want to leave it that way, or do you want to talk a little bit about the themes that you were playing with there? Because it's interesting you drop this now with this calmer sound, because we are, the official narrative is that we are coming towards the end of the pandemic. Like, everything feels like worse than ever, and we really do have this calm before the storm feeling, which is a time for reflection and meditation and consideration of what comes next, which is the vibe I got off the album. But yeah, what was going through your mind when you were working on it?
Let me go through the track list real quick, because it is very painterly, and I can't even think about it unless I look at it.
Gotcha.
Like, not even hear it. I just have to look at it.
I understand that.
Yeah,
I do a lot of writing of, like, a lot of short stories and stuff. I just straight up from dreams. And it's the kind of thing where it means something, but you don't necessarily know what it means. So it's kind of hard to explain. It's like just there in the art.
Yeah, I'm looking at... So, like, my main thing with this was it was me going back to something that was pure, if that makes sense. Whether it was or isn't, it doesn't matter. In my mind, that's what it is. And I wanted to tap into that as much as possible, to the point when I got censored dialogues verses. I didn't even listen to it until I put the record out. I just wanted it to be as pure as possible, and I just wanted to release it. I barely listened to this record. I only did 2 takes for each of these, and I left it at that. Mistakes, everything. I made sure it was pure as hell.
That is a really cool mission statement, and it is it's definitely just feel that it's got that feeling of like sitting in a in a sunny field or in a forest, and you're surrounded by beauty, but you can't see it through your own thoughts, and the process of trying to sink into the beauty that's around you and like just wake up from your own shit like that. Like that's really how it hit me. It's a fantastic.
And with the process, I tried to destroy that as a concept as much as possible with this record. Like, I didn't want anyone to have a process with this. Like, it's just there.
It's great. It's I want to compare it to David Lynch, but I don't want to be like fucking stereotype about it.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comparison. Yeah.
So, with your level of like technical skill, now from what you said earlier, I see that it's a long practiced, that your skill is long practiced organically over time, and developing. It seems like from what you told me that you developed a sense of practice and cultivation of technical skill as a joyful thing because it was a communal thing. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to be the best. That's all it was, and I just wanted people to know I was the best, and I make sure that they know I can't be the best without them. That's like the mission statement. And can it be an arduous process sometimes? Yeah, but I want to be the best.
It's a good goal, and it's always important to define for yourself what the best is, and not let fucking numbers, subscriber counts and money define.
My personal goal is to make one song just as good as New York State of Mind by Nas. If I can do that, then I don't have to do anything else, and I haven't done that yet.
Excellent. That's interesting. I'm surprised to hear that you're basing your main goal on comparison with another artist.
Mm-hmm. The artist, in my mind, the best artist at that time. Nas, in my mind, more so that album more than Nas and everything around it, is the best piece of music I've ever listened to.
High praise. I'll have to check it out.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's not just timeless, but it's ephemeral. It's more than lightning in a bottle. It's like a storm in a thimble. Like, it's just unbelievable magnetism, and I don't there's not a language to describe it in my mind.
That's exciting. It's exciting to know that there's something like that out there that I haven't experienced yet. Mm-hmm. But something about nowadays is objects like that are just like pulled from a transcendent place and brought into the world in a masterful way. I believe there may have been a time where that is what became popular and word spread about them. I don't know what time that would have been, because I think we've been drowning in trash since the 50s at least, mm-hmm. By and large. But I don't know, like, what do you feel like is the state of the appreciation of these things with algorithms and all that? Like, do you have any strong feelings on that kind of thing?
Very much so. I think the artist is the most valuable and yet most disrespected trade you can pick up. Um, I think I once I kind of had a line referencing it to how I believe it's like on Fresh Flowers. You got your antenna to the sky, and you can tell everyone rain is coming, better than the weatherman. And no one listens. And in fact, you're dissuaded at every corner from saying it. And then it happens, and you watch people's houses, their lives get taken away by the flood. And you want to be like, I told you so, I told you so. But you, as an artist, you still get in that flood. And whether it takes you away or you tread water with them, you're in there, and you're always gonna be in there.
That is a beautiful articulation of something that I have been thinking about a lot. Actually, you got me turned up a little now. God damn it!
Because it's what if you're an artist, there is no joy in saying "I told you so." You know, Mozart died broke, and he could say, I told you so right now, but you think that matters? Do you think, like, being right matters? Like, that's not why you're an artist. As much as you want to say you're right, you're still going to go through the shit in the mud, and you're still going to tell people the shit in the mud. You're going to walk back with 50 arrows in your back and say, hey, they got arrows over there, and you're still going to do it. Doesn't matter if you say I told you so. You're still gonna do it. You're an artist. Like, I know you.
There's no escape velocity, and anything that advertises that is just like a trap. It's just like a the sign points you to the devil conversion machine where you just go in there and you get your soul sucked out.
Yeah. And you're the one who put your head in it first to see what's going on, to see how it tinkers.
Speaking of which, like, what do you think of? Do you think it's possible to like make it into the mainstream and maintain integrity?
That really has a lot of questions in it.
True. Like, off the top of my head, I think, like, well, does anyone who has integrity ever make it into the mainstream, or is it all just industry plants?
You already answered it. And manufacturer consent's been out since, like, what, 9/11? So, like, we kind of know how it rolls. It's not that you break through the mainstream, it's that you are mainstream because that's what it is already.
Yeah. And it's weird when you see. I don't know how you feel about 100 gecs, but I see them as like mad industry plants. It's weird to see like weird packaged sold back to us. So
I think industry plant in this day and age is outdated. I understand the sentiment and I completely agree with it, but the language is far too outdated. Like the word album has been outdated since MP3 came out. Music industry is so slow, and language around it, because it's not studied or taken as serious as a social science almost. Industry plant almost means planning, like a budget and all this kind of stuff, when I think it's very it's more venture capitalist, if anything else. It's not cigar chomping guys like your old Drew on the record. It's a tech guy who comes in and listens to it and says, I'll give you $20,000 and I know someone at Sony. Where I feel like industry plants is someone back in the day would be years of crafting. This is more so venture cap, more volatile, more sporadic. You might get one album, but you won't get another kind of thing.
Right. So it's more Andy Warhol than it is ABBA.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. To the point where industry plant it will never exist like it did. Like they're an industry plant. Well, they only have one single and one video, and they're trying to and all they have is a marketing budget. I can't really describe that as an industry plant.
Yeah.
Like for me, an industry plant is, oh, now all of a sudden you have 2 albums and you're on Jimmy Kimmel. Like the scale is just completely different.
Yeah, it's like maybe buy-ins would be a better term, but even then, there's more than that, because I have seen that like in the synthwave scene and stuff. There are artists like Scandroid who are literally just dudes with money who bought their way in because they could buy magazine articles and shit.
It's more venture capitalism. It's just, how much can this money that already exists get me? Like, it's not about generating, and then we sold 1 million. No, it's how much investment can I get right now? Right now. It's like it's just like it's a scam most of the time, because you hear names that you think are going to blow up like an industry plant does, but then they disappear because they can't flip a profit instantaneously. And then they just get thrown away, and then we get, 500 gecs. Someone that sounds almost exactly the same, but is under Atlantic because like with all technology, you need to buy out every company, whether you support it or not. You need to have that locked and loaded just in case someone does make it big on VR. Bam, so now I have VR. Oh, you got your 100 gecs? Bam, I already bought 8 bands that sound like 100 gecs. Put them all on the shelf,
It's all warfare. It's warfare.
Yeah, it's
all
warfare.
The way down.
It's warfare. That's what's happening in like VR and almost any Silicon Valley. They buy a bunch of assets, intellectual properties, and shut them down. And now everyone has that gun, but since no one wants to change their supply chain or the value chain or whatever, no one's ready to pull it. But when it does, we'll be ready. And then we'll just spring up that firm again and go from there.
On the other side of things, on the brighter side of things, you have really goddamn good artists like yourself and Backwash and DJ Roswell and Void Dweller and all these just relatively small like artists who are very good at what they do, and all kind of like sincere and helping each other out and working with each other and stuff like that. Where do you see this going? Because one of the biggest things that I've often chewed over around this whole current movement is how spread out everybody is. Because usually when scenes like this in the past would have been like, yes, it's the New York underground scene, or it's the Bay Area thrash scene, or whatever. But it's like, what the fuck do you do when everybody is, where you have bands that are like spread out across the world and shit, and half the people are like vulnerable, like they can't travel. You know what I mean? It's a very unique and strange situation that this movement is in.
I never even thought about it. Yeah. I don't think, in a weird sense, it kind of doesn't matter to me. Not and I don't think it matters to any of these artists, because like I said, it's just, we do what we do because that's all we know how to do. Like, we'll do it either way. It's gonna get done. There's a job in our heads and it has to get done. It's like a locomotive. You just gotta go. Just going and going, and wherever it goes, it goes. If it takes me to Canada, that's great. If it takes me to New York, fantastic. If it don't take me anywhere, I'm still doing my thing. And I think a lot of artists are like, and also, I don't want to like get too much, but like, we've all had brushes, I feel like, with industry and the industry. Like, it's just, I don't think we even hold weight to the industry anymore. Like, it's just, everyone says you're right there, you're right there, you're right. But when you're right there for so long, like, it doesn't even faze you anymore.
Yeah, and industry, even just from people I know who have signed to labels and stuff, obviously won't name names, it is a nightmare. It is a nightmare of NDAs, abusers being protected,
Yeah.
Just having to grin and bear it while people rob you blind and like assault you and shit like that.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare play. The industry is an absolute nightmare.
It is. I could talk about my experience because I talked about it with like Titmouse, but like I met up with a producer and it was a British dude who didn't know anything about hip hop, and already I was already clocked out, and like it's just it's not even frustrating. It's like kind of funny. It's how lost. It's always people gaming the system in a way that they know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy, and none of these people make music. None of them make music. They're producers, they're engineers. None of them make music. None of them. None of them. They just don't. They don't want to make music. They don't. That's because they know that's not what the industry's about. Like, they don't care if their record gets out or whatever record they made for someone. They don't care. They don't care. The last thing they want to do is music, actually. Because then that's an actual litmus test. Because if you want to cut through the bullshit, ask someone to go in the studio and make something. And as soon as that happens, it's like, oh, let's go here. Let's go there. Let's do this. You like strip clubs? You like, no, I want to go to. And then you realize no one makes music around you.
Yeah. Is that what happened? Just a bunch of people who were when you were.
Yeah. It's just no one. Oh, you want to make music? Well, we could do that this day. Like, no, I'm here to make music. Like, I am a working individual. I work to make music I love and actually appreciate. And if that's the last thing you want to do, then I'm the last person you want to talk to.
Yeah. I suppose it's the same with the film industry. It doesn't seem like anyone actually wants to make anything. They're just constantly remaking shit and using the same few actors and all that. It's very bizarre. It is just very bizarre. It's
a scam. I mean, like, I remember I was talking to my friend. He's an Irish American. I was talking to him about, like, you know, just bullshit and drinking, whatever. And he said, you know what? It's not a dog-eat-dog world. It's a gotcha society. Either you're the scammer or you're the fucking mark. Everyone's it's a scheme. They're not out to get you directly, a lot of these people. They're out to get as much money from you and everyone else around them as possible. It's not, oh, you're homeless? Okay, that's whatever. But I didn't mean that directly. I just trying to get mine. Like, and not like dog eat dog is too violent. This is just more a scam. It's passive. It's like it's just flipping bucks. It's just every day. This is what business is. Yeah. You know,
it's in everything. It's in our social services. It's in healthcare. It's in everything, and no one wants to do any work.
Yeah, and the people who want to do work are the ones who are mined the most. Like, come in with this extra shit. Come and do this. Come and EQ this. Come and do this drums. Come and do this again. It's the people who actually want to work are the ones who, again, are grinded until there's nothing left.
Usually the people on the bottom. The higher up the ladder you go, the less you're actually allowed to legally do in any field ever.
Yeah, because then it's on your head. You don't want to be in line for the gallows if something goes down. You're gonna hop out.
It's crazy, and it's also, like, I'm fucking like, white dude passing person in Ireland, and I have an okay job and make a decent amount of money. It's so, like, the temptation to just fucking hoard my fucking little monies and you know, be an unscrupulous piece of shit and never do anything for anyone else is so insidiously always creeping up in my brain. Like, this system just, like, it just gets in you.
Yeah, it gets its claws in you and tears you out.
For sure. All right, so I think we're coming on about an hour. Before we have to cut this great conversation short, I would be interested in knowing what you're doing now, what you're doing next. You say you're, I would assume from most artists that as soon as you release an album like Fresh Flowers for Ill Fruit, that you'd be wanting to take a break for a while, but you don't seem like the kind of person who takes breaks.
I'm already working on one project, and then I have another one down the line, which means this month, I'll be working on. So hopefully, me and Backwash can do that EP soon, because that's what we've been aiming to do, and she's saying she's ready for it, so I'm excited for that. It's all on her time. She's far more busy than I am. So a EP produced by Backwash. And another project I kind of want to keep on the down low for now.
Oh, yeah? Can you say... I have a couple of questions, and feel free to just say, I can't answer that, right? Question one.
Yeah.
Going further out there, continuing the kind of exploration that you started on Fresh Flowers for Ill Fruit, or going back into the heavy shit?
Back into heavy shit for Backwash. Fresh Flowers for Ill Fruit 2 with Titmouse will come out eventually. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Fucking A. All right, cool. So that's super exciting. I think we'll wrap up now. One last, just pimp everything. Your links, your social media right now, and where people can find you.
Oh, well, I only have a Twitter because I don't want to deal with anything else. And I like my, not anonymity, but like, at IRL_death on Twitter. Please follow me. That's where you'll get everything. And let's see and Deathirl with lowercase IRL at bandcamp.com. Thank you for having me.